She burst through the country club doors, blood on her lip, fear in her eyes. Every head turned. At table 7 sat the man who could save her, or destroy her. What she whispered made him rise to his feet. And that's when everything changed. If you believe abusers like James should never hide behind a badge, hit subscribe. Only cowards protect monsters like him. Beyoncé stumbled through the country club doors, mascara streaking down her bruised cheekbone, her hands trembling so violently she could barely grip the brass handle. The security guard reached for his radio, but she walked right past him, her target already locked. At table 7, beneath crystal chandeliers worth more than her childhood home, sat a man in a $5,000 suit. She'd served him coffee exactly once. She knew 3 things about him. He owned half the city. He never smiled. And right now, he was her only chance at survival. What she whispered into his ear made him set down his wine glass, stand up and do something that would change both their lives forever. The blood tasted like copper and desperation. Beyoncé knew this because she'd been swallowing her own for the last 20 minutes courtesy of her husband's class ring, catching her lip when he backhanded her across their kitchen. She pressed a dish towel against her mouth, her reflection in the darkened window showing a woman she barely recognized anymore. 26 years old and she looked 40. 3 years of marriage to Detective James Morrison had done that. Aged her, hollowed her out, turned her into a ghost who flinched at sudden movements. The apartment was silent now. James had left 10 minutes ago, slamming the door hard enough to crack the frame. But Beyoncé knew the pattern. He'd go to Murphy's bar, drink exactly 4 whiskeys, then come back angrier, meaner, ready to finish what he'd started. She had maybe 90 minutes, maybe less if he decided to skip the drinking and come straight home. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. 1 word, soon. That single word contained volumes, promises of pain, reminders of every time she'd thought about leaving, about calling the police, only to remember that he was the police. His friends were the police. The entire justice system was filled with men who'd cover for him, who'd look at her bruises and ask what she'd done to deserve them. But tonight was different. Tonight, he'd said something while his hands were around her throat, squeezing until black spots danced across her vision. Next time, I'll finish it. Not a threat, a promise, and Beyoncé believed him. She grabbed her purse, her hands shaking so badly she dropped it twice. Inside, $63, a maxed-out credit card, and keys to a car that hadn't started in 2 weeks. No family within 500 miles. No friends James hadn't systematically isolated her from. No shelter that wouldn't call the police the moment she checked in. Police who knew her husband, who'd send her right back to him. Her mind raced through options like a drowning person grasping at water. Then she remembered. Table 7. The man who came into Rosie's diner every Thursday morning at exactly 6:15 a.m., ordered black coffee and wheat toast and left a $100 tip on a $12 check. She'd served him maybe 6 times total. They'd never spoken beyond good morning and thank you. But she'd seen the way other customers looked at him. The way even her manager, tough as nails Rita, straightened her apron and lowered her voice when he walked in. She'd Googled him once, late at night when James was passed out drunk. Ken Tyler, 35 years old, self-made billionaire, real estate empire that stretched across 4 states. The articles called him ruthless, calculating, a man who bought failing companies and stripped them for parts. They called him cold. They called him dangerous in a boardroom, but they never called him violent. They never showed pictures of women with bruises shaped like his hands. Beyoncé looked at her reflection one more time. Swollen lip, bruise blooming across her cheekbone like a grotesque flower, eye that would be black by morning. She thought about James coming home, about that look in his eyes when he'd said, "Next time." She thought about dying in this apartment, another domestic violence statistic that would make page 6 of the local newspaper for exactly 1 day, before everyone forgot. Then she grabbed her jacket and ran. The Belmont Country Club sat on a hill overlooking the city like a crown jewel. all manicured lawns and old money and people who'd never known what it meant to choose between groceries and rent. Beyoncé's decade-old Honda coughed and sputtered up the circular driveway, backfiring loud enough to make a valet in a crisp uniform actually flinch. She killed the engine before it could die on its own, stepping out onto cobblestones that probably cost more per square foot than her monthly salary. The valets stared. One actually laughed, a sharp bark of sound quickly stifled when his colleague elbowed him. Beyoncé didn't care. She walked toward the entrance, her waitress uniform from the diner still on, coffee stains on the collar, name tag slightly crooked. She looked exactly like what she was, someone who didn't belong. The security guard at the door was young, maybe 25, with kind eyes that widened when he saw her face, saw the bruises she hadn't bothered trying to hide. "Ma'am, this is a private club. Members only." "I know." Her voice came out steady, which surprised her. "I need to see Ken Tyler. It's urgent." "Mr. Tyler doesn't take visitors. If you'd like to make an appointment." "I don't have time for an appointment." Beyoncé met his eyes, let him see the desperation there, the fear. "Please, I just need 5 minutes. I'll wait by the door. I won't cause a scene. Please." The guard's hand hovered near his radio. She could see him calculating, weighing his options. Then his eyes flicked to her split lip, to the bruise darkening her cheek, and something in his expression softened. "Wait here," he said quietly. He disappeared inside. Beyoncé stood in the foyer, crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light across marble floors, Baroque paintings of stern-faced men watching her from gilded frames. She could hear violin music drifting from somewhere deeper in the club, the murmur of conversation, the clink of expensive silverware on expensive plates. This was insane. What was she even doing here? Ken Tyler didn't know her. Why would a billionaire help a random waitress who'd served him coffee a handful of times? He'd probably have security throw her out, maybe call the police, maybe call James directly. "Ma'am?" The guard was back and he looked confused. "Mr. Tyler says you can come in. Table 7. Through the dining room past the bar." Beyoncé's heart hammered. He said I could come in?" "Yes, ma'am. But..." The guard lowered his voice. "Are you sure about this? Mr. Tyler, he's not exactly known for being warm. If you need help, real help, I can call. No police." The words came out sharp, panicked. "Please, no police." The guard studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Table 7. Good luck." The dining room was everything Beyoncé expected. White tablecloths, candles and crystal holders, people in designer clothes discussing stock portfolios and vacation homes. Every head turned as she walked through, whispers following her like a wake. She found a table 7 in the back corner, positioned so its occupant could see the entire room but remained partially hidden by a marble pillar. Ken Tyler sat alone, a glass of red wine in front of him, his attention on a leather portfolio spread across the table. Up close, he was different from how she remembered him from the diner. Taller, maybe 6'2", sharp features that looked carved rather than born. Dark hair with just enough gray at the temples to suggest he'd earned his fortune through stress rather than inheritance. He wore a charcoal suit that fit perfectly, a crisp white shirt, and no tie. His hands were steady on the papers, fingers long and precise. He didn't look up as she approached. Beyoncé Martinez, 26 years old, waitress at Rosie's Diner for 3 years, married to Detective James Morrison. His voice was deep, controlled, with an edge that suggested he didn't waste words. "Your husband has filed 2 domestic violence reports in the past 18 months, both withdrawn. You've been to the emergency room 4 times in 3 years. Falls, you said. Kitchen accidents." Beyoncé's blood turned to ice. "How do you..." "I make it my business to know things." He finally looked up and his eyes were gray, cold gray, calculating gray, eyes that had seen balance sheets and hostile takeovers and probably hadn't cried since childhood. The guard told me a woman with a bruised face was asking for me by name. I had my assistant pull your information while you walked through the dining room. Took 45 seconds. She should have felt violated. Instead, she felt seen. I need help. Obviously. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit before you fall over. You're shaking. Beyoncé sat, her legs giving out more than she'd intended. This close, she could smell his cologne. Something expensive, cedar and something else. Old money and new power. I didn't know where else to go. So you came to me. Why? He leaned back, studying her like she was a contract he was considering signing. We've exchanged maybe 20 words total. What makes you think I'd help you? I don't know. Honest. Raw. But you tip $100 on $12 checks, and you always say thank you, and, her voice cracked, and you're the only person I could think of who my husband can't touch. Something flickered in Ken Tyler's eyes. Not warmth exactly, more like interest. Your husband is coming after you tonight. Not a question, a statement. Beyoncé nodded. He said next time he'd finish it. He meant it. I know he meant it. Ken picked up his wine glass, took a slow sip, his eyes never leaving hers. The silence stretched. Violins played somewhere. People laughed. And Beyoncé waited for a man she barely knew to decide if she lived or died. Finally, he set down his glass. If I help you, there are conditions. Anything. Don't agree to anything until you hear the terms. His voice was sharp. I don't do charity. I don't do favors. Everything is a transaction. You want my protection, you need to understand what that means. Beyoncé's hands twisted in her lap. I don't have money. I can't pay you. I don't need your money. He leaned forward. But I need something from you. You worked at Rosie's Diner for 3 years. Your husband is a detective. I assume he talked about work. Her stomach dropped. You want information? I want insurance. Ken's expression was unreadable. James Morrison is dirty. He and half the police force. They're on someone's payroll, moving something through the city. I need to know what, who, and how. You're going to tell me everything you've overheard. Every name. Every conversation. He'll kill me. He's going to kill you anyway. Ken's words were brutal, clinical. At least this way, you die for a purpose. Or, he paused. You give me what I need, and I make sure he never touches you again. Your choice. Comment no more cover-ups and hit that subscribe button if you're tired of powerful people getting away with crimes. Let's drown out the silence they count on. Beyoncé thought about James's hands around her throat, about the certainty in his voice when he promised to finish her, about 3 years of walking on eggshells and sleeping with one eye open and wondering which day would be her last. What happens after I tell you? After, you disappear. New identity, new city, enough money to start over. Clean break. Ken pulled out his phone and typed something quickly. But first you tell me everything, and I mean everything. Names, dates, locations, and overheard conversations you thought meant nothing. All of it. And if the information isn't useful? His smile was cold. Then we have a problem. But I don't think it will be. Dirty cops are predictable. They think badges make them untouchable. He tilted his head slightly. Your husband is about to learn otherwise. Beyoncé's hands were still shaking, but her voice came out steady. He meets someone every Tuesday night. I don't know his name, but James always comes home with cash. Hundreds, sometimes thousands. He keeps it in a lockbox in our bedroom closet, behind the Christmas decorations we never use. Ken's expression didn't change, but she saw his fingers pause over his phone. Keep talking. There's a warehouse on 5th and Harrison. James and 3 other cops, Daniels, Rodriguez, and Chris, they go there twice a month. Thursday nights around midnight. They think I don't notice patterns, but I do. James always showers twice when he gets home from those meetings, like he's washing something off. 5th and Harrison. Ken typed rapidly. What else? Phone calls. Lots of phone calls to someone named Thompson. James never uses his name, just says, "It's handled," or "The shipment's clean," or "We've got it covered." He always takes those calls outside, but Beyoncé's voice dropped to a whisper. "But our bedroom window faces the back patio. I've heard things." Ken's gray eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time she saw something beyond calculation, something almost like approval. "Shipments of what?" "I don't know exactly. But one time James came home and his hands smelled like chemicals, not drugs, something else. He scrubbed them raw in the sink, muttering about precursors and volatile materials." "I'm not stupid. I worked in a pharmacy before the diner. Precursors means bomb components." Ken's voice was soft, deadly soft. "Your husband isn't just dirty. He's running materials for someone building explosives." The room tilted. Beyoncé gripped the edge of the table. Oh God, I thought maybe drugs or stolen goods, but..." "Breathe." Ken's command cut through her panic. "You're doing fine. What else? Any mention of dates? Targets?" "There's a big meeting coming up. James has been stressed about it for weeks. He keeps saying the 15th, like it's a deadline. That's in 3 days. He told someone on the phone that everything had to be ready by the 15th, or Thompson would..." She swallowed hard. "Or Thompson would handle it personally." Ken's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. When he looked back at Beyoncé, something had shifted in his expression. "Your husband just texted you again, 2 minutes ago." Her phone was in her purse. She hadn't heard it, hadn't felt it vibrate. "How do you..." "I'm tracking your phone. Have been since you walked into the club." He showed her his screen. Her own text messages were displayed there, including James's latest. "Coming home early. You'd better be there. Sent 4 minutes ago." Which meant James was probably already on his way. Maybe already pulling into their parking lot. Maybe already discovering she wasn't there. Beyoncé's breath came in short gasps. "He'll find me. He'll figure out where I went. He knows I have no friends, no family. He'll check." "He won't find you." Ken stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. "Because you're not leaving this building. At least not the way you came in." "What?" He came around the table, his presence somehow larger now that he was standing. "I own this club. The parking garage connects to a private tunnel system that runs under half the city. My driver is bringing a car around now. In approximately 3 minutes, you'll be in a secure location where your husband can't reach you. But no buts. You gave me what I needed. Now I keep my end of the bargain." He glanced toward the dining room entrance where the security guard from earlier appeared, nodding subtly. "James Morrison just arrived at the front gate. He's telling security you're a mental patient who escaped from a facility. He's showing his badge. He's very convincing." Beyoncé's heart stopped. "He's here. He's at the gate, which is half a mile away, and our security is very good at stalling." Ken's hand touched her shoulder, firm, but not rough. "You need to move, now." She let him guide her away from the table, through a side door hidden behind the marble pillar. They entered a hallway she hadn't noticed before, carpeted in deep blue, lined with doors that probably led to private rooms where deals were made and fortunes changed hands. Ken walked fast, not running but moving with purpose. Beyoncé struggled to keep up, her legs still shaky, her mind reeling. They reached an elevator at the end of the hall. Ken pressed his palm against a biometric scanner. The doors opened immediately. Inside, he hit the button for P3, parking level 3. The elevator descended smoothly, and in the silence, Beyoncé found her voice. "Why are you really helping me?" Ken didn't look at her. "I told you. Transaction. Information for protection." "No, there's more. You could have just paid me for information. Could have had your people extract it. You didn't need to promise protection." She studied his profile. "So why?" The elevator doors opened. Ken stepped out into a parking garage that smelled like concrete and expensive cars. Because men like your husband think badges make them gods. They think power means they can do whatever they want to whoever they want and no one will stop them. He turned to face her finally. I'm stopping him. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. A black Mercedes pulled up, tinted windows, engine purring like a satisfied cat. Ken opened the back door. Get in. My driver will take you to a safe house. You'll stay there until I've dealt with your husband. Dealt with? Legally. His smile was sharp. Mostly legally. I have lawyers who know how to make dirty cops very uncomfortable. And now, thanks to you, I have evidence that goes beyond domestic violence. James Morrison is going to spend the next 20 years in federal prison. Minimum. Beyoncé slid into the Mercedes, the leather seat soft enough to sleep on. Ken closed the door but didn't step back. Through the window, his voice was muffled but clear. Don't try to leave the safe house. Don't contact anyone. Don't use social media. For the next 72 hours you don't exist, understood? She nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Ken rapped twice on the roof. The driver, a man in a dark suit who hadn't said a word, put the car in gear. As they pulled away, Beyoncé looked back through the rear window. Ken Tyler stood in the parking garage, phone already at his ear, his expression hard as granite. A man used to giving orders, used to being obeyed, used to winning. She'd just gambled everything on a stranger who tipped too much and never smiled. She'd traded information for protection, turned her husband over to someone who might be just as dangerous in different ways. And as the Mercedes climbed the parking garage ramp, heading toward an exit that didn't face the front gate where James was probably screaming at security, Beyoncé realized something. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't afraid. Not of James. Not of tomorrow. Not of what came next. Because she'd asked for help from someone who could actually give it. And he'd said yes. The safe house wasn't what Beyoncé expected. No dingy motel room. No cheap apartment with bars on the windows. Instead, the Mercedes pulled up to a modern townhouse in a gated community, where every lawn looked professionally maintained, and every car in every driveway cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. The driver, still silent, handed her a keycard and a phone. Not her phone. A new one, sleek and expensive. Mr. Tyler will contact you on this. Don't answer calls from any other number. Don't order food delivery. Don't open the door unless you receive a code word first. His voice was surprisingly gentle. You'll be safe here. I promise. Then he was gone, the Mercedes disappearing into the night, leaving Beyoncé standing on a doorstep that belonged to a life she'd never lived. Inside, the townhouse was furnished like something from a magazine. Cream-colored furniture, abstract art on the walls, a kitchen with appliances she didn't know how to operate. The refrigerator was fully stocked. The closet in the bedroom held clothes in her exact size, tags still attached, toiletries in the bathroom. Even pajamas were laid out on the bed. Ken Tyler had planned this. Not tonight specifically, but he'd had a safe house ready, stocked, prepared for someone who needed to disappear. How many people had stayed here before her? How many other desperate souls had taken refuge in this beautiful cage? Beyoncé sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing her coffee-stained uniform, and for the first time since James's fist connected with her face, she allowed herself to cry. Not quiet tears. Full, body-shaking sobs that felt like they'd been building for 3 years. She cried for the woman she'd been before James, the one who'd laughed easily and dreamed big and believed love was supposed to feel safe. She cried for all the times she'd covered bruises with makeup and lied to doctors and told herself it would get better if she just tried harder. She cried because she'd escaped, but the cost was everything. Her marriage, her home, her identity. She'd given a billionaire information that would destroy her husband, and she didn't even feel guilty, just tired. So incredibly tired. The phone Ken had given her buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Status check. Respond with blue if secure. Red if compromised. Beyoncé typed, blue. 3 dots appeared immediately, then, good. Stay put. Morrison is looking for you. He filed a missing persons report, called in favors with half the force, says you're suicidal and dangerous to yourself. Every cop in the city is watching for your car. Her fingers trembled as she typed back, "My car's at the country club." Not anymore. It's been moved to a storage facility under a different name. As far as anyone knows, you drove to the river. We'll find it in a few days. Empty. The implication hit her like ice water. You want people to think I killed myself. I want people to stop looking for you. There's a difference. Beyoncé stared at the phone. This was real. Ken Tyler wasn't just hiding her. He was erasing her, creating a narrative where Beyoncé Martinez, a broken waitress driven to desperation, ended her own life. And James would play the grieving husband perfectly. He'd cry at her memorial, accept condolences, probably start dating someone new within a month. Unless Ken's plan worked, unless the evidence she'd provided was enough to take James down first. She typed, "What happens next? Next, we move. I have people working on the evidence you gave me. Warehouse on 5th and Harrison is under surveillance as of 30 minutes ago. Financial records for Morrison, Daniels, Rodriguez, and Chris are being pulled. Should have a full picture by morning. And then we decide how much of this goes to the FBI and how much stays private." That gave her pause. Private? Some information is more valuable as leverage than evidence. Your husband has powerful friends. Federal investigation might get messy, drawn out. But a billionaire with compromising intel? That's quick. Efficient. Beyoncé's stomach twisted. You're going to blackmail them. I'm going to give them a choice. Prison or retirement. Personally, I don't care which they choose as long as they disappear. And James? The 3 dots took longer this time. Finally, James Morrison doesn't get a choice. He put his hands on you. He threatened your life. Men like that don't retire quietly. They escalate. So he goes down. Hard. Public. Permanently. Something fierce and dark unfurled in Beyoncé's chest. Not quite satisfied. More like justice finally having teeth. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be complicated. The phone went dark. Beyoncé sat in the silent townhouse, surrounded by luxury that felt borrowed, and tried to imagine what complicated meant to a man like Ken Tyler. She changed into the pajamas, soft cotton that had probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, brushed her teeth with a toothbrush still in its packaging, washed her face gently around the bruises that were already turning purple and yellow. In the mirror, she looked like a stranger, someone who'd been through war and barely survived. She climbed into bed, expecting to lie awake all night, jumping at every sound. Instead, she fell asleep the moment her head hit the pillow. Deep, dreamless sleep. The kind that came from finally being able to stop running. Beyoncé woke to sunlight streaming through blackout curtains she didn't remember closing and the smell of fresh coffee. Her heart hammered immediately. Someone was in the house. She sat up, grabbing the only potential weapon in reach, a decorative lamp that probably cost more than her rent. The bedroom door was closed. She'd left it open. Definitely left it open. Footsteps in the hallway. Calm, measured. Not James's heavy tread, but that didn't mean safe. The door opened. Ken Tyler stood there in dark jeans and a black sweater holding 2 cups of coffee. He looked different in casual clothes. Less untouchable billionaire, more dangerously competent human. You're awake. Good. He held out one of the cups. Cream, no sugar, same way you drink it at the diner. Beyoncé lowered the lamp slowly, her face heating. You broke into your own safe house. I have keys. That's not breaking in. He set the coffee on the nightstand when she didn't take it. We need to talk, get dressed, something comfortable. We're going to be here a while. What happened? Happened? His expression was carefully neutral. Your husband held a press conference 2 hours ago. Tearful plea for your safe return. He showed pictures from your wedding, called you the love of his life. Very convincing performance. Beyoncé's hands clenched in the expensive sheets. He's good at performing. I know. I watched the whole thing. Ken moved to the window, adjusting the curtains to let in more light but keeping the angle so no one outside could see in. He also announced a $50,000 reward for information leading to your location. Posted it on social media. Local news picked it up. You're the lead story on 3 channels. Oh, God. Don't panic. This works in our favor. He turned back to her. Public sympathy is with him right now. Worried husband, missing wife with a history of depression. I don't have a history of depression. You do now. James told reporters you'd been struggling for months, said you'd threatened suicide before. He painted a very specific picture. Ken's voice was clinical, detached. Which means when we dismantle him, the fall will be much, much farther. Beyoncé grabbed the coffee, needing something to hold on to. You said we need to talk. The warehouse, 5th and Harrison. Ken pulled out his phone, swiping through photos. My people did surveillance all night. 12 vehicles came and went between midnight and 4 a.m. We got license plates, driver identifications, security footage. He showed her the screen. Grainy night vision images of men unloading boxes from trucks. Recognize anyone? She squinted at the photos. That's Daniels, James's partner, and I think that's the guy from Tuesday nights, the one James meets for cash. Vincent Caruso, mid-level organized crime, mostly runs protection rackets and underground gambling. Ken swiped to another photo. This one's more interesting. The image showed a man in an expensive suit, designer even in the poor quality footage, directing the others. Older, maybe 50s, with silver hair and the kind of presence that suggested authority. I don't know him. Thompson Delgado. That name came up in your information. The Thompson your husband talks to on the phone. Ken's gray eyes were sharp. He's the money behind half the criminal operations in the state. Untouchable, or so he thinks. Never been arrested. Never even been charged. He has judges, prosecutors, and police chiefs on payroll. And James works for him. James is a small piece, but a useful piece. Ken pocketed his phone. Here's what we know. Delgado is moving precursor chemicals through the city. Not for drugs. For explosives, like you guessed. We traced the warehouse shipments. They're being sent to 3 different locations across state lines, which means federal jurisdiction. Interstate criminal activity. Domestic terrorism charges if we can prove intent. Beyoncé felt cold despite the warm room. The 15th. James said everything had to be ready by the 15th. That's tomorrow. I know. Ken's expression darkened. Which means whatever Delgado is planning happens in the next 48 hours. My people are trying to identify the target. But Delgado's smart. He compartmentalizes information. No one person knows the whole picture. Except maybe James. Ken moved to sit in the chair across from the bed, his posture relaxed, but his eyes intense. Which brings me to why I'm really here. I need to bring James in. Not arrest, not yet. But I need to talk to him. Convince him cooperation is his only option. He won't cooperate. He's loyal to Delgado. He's loyal to whoever keeps him out of prison. Ken leaned forward. But I need leverage. Something personal. Something that makes him crack. Beyoncé's stomach sank. You need me. I need you to make a phone call. Tell him you're safe. Tell him you'll come home if he meets you somewhere public. Neutral ground. We record the conversation, get him to slip up and admit to something we can use. He'll know it's a trap. Probably. But he'll come anyway. Ken's voice was certain. Because men like James Morrison don't believe they can lose. They're arrogant, they think they're smarter than everyone else, and more importantly... He paused, something almost like sympathy crossing his features. He's obsessed with you. You're his possession. The one thing he can't control anymore. He'll come because he has to. It's not rational. It's a compulsion. Beyoncé thought about 3 years of marriage, about James's jealousy, his rages, his need to know where she was every moment. Ken was right. James would come. And he'd be violent. If I call him, if I set up a meeting, What happens to me? You stay protected, armed security, recording equipment, escape routes. I'm not putting you in actual danger. He's a cop. He's killed people. What if he shoots me? Ken's smile was cold. Then I die. But you don't. And he goes to prison for murdering a billionaire in public. Either way, you're free. The casual way he said it, like his life was just another transaction, another calculated risk, made Beyoncé's breath catch. You'd really risk that? I've risked more for less. He stood, smoothing his sweater. But we're not going to let it get that far. We do this smart, controlled. We get James talking, get what we need, then I turn everything over to federal authorities and let them handle the rest. Why? The question burst out of her. Why go through all this? You have the warehouse surveillance. You have the financial records. You could just hand it to the FBI and walk away. Why involve yourself further? Ken was quiet for a long moment, standing by the window, backlit by morning sun that turned him into a silhouette. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd heard before. 7 years ago, my sister called me at 2 a.m. She was crying, terrified. Her husband had beaten her so badly she'd lost hearing in one ear. She begged me to help her. He didn't turn around. I told her to call the police, to file a report. I offered to pay for lawyers, for a divorce, for anything legal. What I didn't do was act fast enough. His shoulders tensed. She went home, tried to work it out. 3 months later, he killed her, shot her in her sleep and then himself. Murder-suicide, the police said. Tragic domestic situation. Beyoncé's hand covered her mouth. Ken. Her name was Sarah. She was 28 years old. She taught 3rd grade. She believed people were fundamentally good. He finally turned, and his eyes were hard. I failed her by playing by the rules her husband didn't follow. I won't make that mistake again. The silence stretched between them, heavy with understanding. Ken wasn't helping Beyoncé out of charity or even cold calculation. He was trying to save the sister he couldn't save, trying to rewrite an ending that had already been written. I'll make the call, Beyoncé said quietly. Tell me what to say. They spent the next 3 hours preparing. Ken's people arrived at the townhouse quietly, professionally. A woman named Rachel, who set up recording equipment and coached Beyoncé on conversation techniques. A man named Thompson, different Thompson, Beyoncé reminded herself, who was apparently Ken's head of security and looked like he could break a person in half without trying. And a lawyer named Patricia Chen, who explained exactly what they needed James to admit to on tape for it to be admissible evidence. He needs to acknowledge the warehouse, Patricia said, her voice crisp and efficient. Doesn't have to be explicit. Even something like, you know about the 5th Street operation works if he doesn't deny it. We need him to confirm his relationship with Delgado. Again, acknowledgement is enough. And ideally, we get him to threaten you. On tape. Clear verbal threat. That last part won't be hard, Beyoncé muttered. Rachel handed her the phone, not the one Ken had given her last night. A different one. This one modified with recording equipment that couldn't be detected. Call his cell, not his work phone. Keep him talking as long as possible. Ask questions that require more than yes or no answers, and Beyoncé. Rachel's eyes were kind. If at any point you feel unsafe, if you can't continue, just say the word blue. We stop everything immediately. Beyoncé looked at Ken, who stood by the window watching the street. Where will the meeting be? Riverside Park, main pavilion. Public, open, lots of witnesses. He glanced at her. We'll have people positioned throughout the park. James won't see them, but they'll be there. You'll never be alone with him. When? Today, 4 p.m. Ken checked his watch. Which gives us 6 hours to prepare and him just enough time to get there if he's anywhere in the city. Thompson spoke up, his voice a deep rumble. Sir, the park is risky. Too many sight lines. Too many variables. If Morrison brings backup, he won't bring backup. He'll want this private. Ken's certainty was absolute. He thinks he's reclaiming his property. He won't want witnesses to whatever he plans to do. The casual way he said property made Beyoncé's skin crawl, even though she knew Ken was just stating James's perspective. She held out her hand for the phone. "Let's do this before I lose my nerve." Rachel handed it over. Patricia is poised to take notes. Thompson moved closer, protective, and Ken simply watched, his gray eyes unreadable. Beyoncé dialed James's number. It rang once, twice. On the third ring, he answered. "Who is this?" His voice was tight, controlled, the voice he used when he was very, very angry. "It's me." Beyoncé's voice shook. She didn't have to fake that. "It's Beyoncé." Silence. Then, "Where the hell are you? Do you have any idea what you've put me through? I've been looking everywhere. The entire city is looking for you, I thought." His voice cracked convincingly. "I thought you were dead." "I'm not dead. Where are you?" Harder now, demanding. "Tell me where you are right now." "I'm safe. That's all you need to know." "Safe?" He laughed, bitter and sharp. "You ran away from your home, from your husband. You're not safe. You're confused, probably scared. Baby, just tell me where you are and I'll come get you. We'll work this out. I forgive you for running. I understand you were upset." Upset? The word came out sharper than she intended. Rachel gave her an encouraging nod. "Keep him talking." "You tried to kill me, James. You put your hands around my throat and said next time you'd finish it." "I never—" He stopped, recalibrated. "You're remembering it wrong. You know how you get when you're stressed? We had an argument, sure, but I never hurt you. I would never hurt you." My lip was split. My face was bruised. That's not misremembering. "You fell. In the kitchen. I tried to catch you." His lies came smooth as silk, practiced. How many times had he told these lies? To his partners? To his captain? To anyone who'd questioned the bruises? "Beyoncé, listen to me. Whatever you think happened, whatever you think I did, we can work through it. But you need to come home. People are worried. Your mental state—" "My mental state is fine." "Is it? Because you're talking about things that didn't happen. You're hiding somewhere instead of coming to your husband, who loves you." His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. "Who did you go to? Whose head have you been filling with lies about me?" There it was, the jealousy, the possessiveness. Beyoncé glanced at Ken, who was watching intently. "I'm not telling you that. You went to someone. A man." His breathing changed over the phone. "Is this about another man? Did you leave me for someone else?" "This is about me trying not to die. You're being dramatic. You always do this. You overreact. You run away, and then I have to clean up the mess." James's voice was rising now, the carefully controlled husband mask slipping. "Do you know what your little disappearing act has cost? The press conference I had to give, the embarrassment. My captain is asking questions. My friends think I can't control my own wife. Maybe you can't." Mistake. She knew it immediately. The silence on the other end was pure rage, coiled and ready to strike. When James spoke again, his voice was ice. "You're going to regret this. Whatever game you're playing, whoever's helping you, it's over. I will find you, Beyoncé. I will bring you home. And when I do—" "When you do, what?" "Push him. Get him to say it. When I do, you'll remember why you don't run from me." The threat was clear, unmistakable. Patricia was writing frantically. "Now stop being stupid and tell me where you are." Riverside Park, Main Pavilion, 4 p.m. Beyoncé's voice was steadier now. "Public place, lots of people, come alone, we'll talk." "I'm not playing games." "Then don't come, stay away. File your missing person report and move on with your life." She took a breath. "But if you want to talk, if you want to know why I left, meet me at 4 p.m. Your choice." She hung up before he could respond. The townhouse was silent. Then Rachel broke into a grin. "That was perfect. Absolutely perfect. We got threats, we got his denial of abuse followed by implicit admission, we got him angry," Thompson interrupted, his expression grim. He'll come, but he'll come ready for violence. Good. Ken's voice was quiet. Let him come violently. Let him show everyone who he really is. He looked at Beyoncé. You did well. Better than well. Now we prepare for this afternoon. Beyoncé set down the phone, her hands trembling. He sounded so sure. So confident he'd get me back. Men like James always sound confident. Ken moved closer. Right up until the moment they realize they've lost. That moment is coming. 4 o'clock. Riverside Park. His eyes met hers. And this time, you won't be facing him alone. The park was beautiful in the late afternoon sun. Golden light filtered through oak trees that had probably stood for 100 years. Families scattered across the lawn with picnic blankets and laughing children. Joggers on the paved paths. Normal. Safe. Exactly the kind of place where nothing bad should happen. Beyoncé sat on a bench at the main pavilion, wearing jeans and a simple sweater from the safe house closet, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like any other woman enjoying a fall afternoon, except her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Radio check. Thompson's voice came through the tiny earpiece hidden in her ear, so small James would never spot it. Can you hear me? Yes, she said quietly, pretending to look at her phone. Ken's positioned 30 feet behind you near the fountain. I'm in the parking lot with a clear view of the pavilion. Rachel's in a car on the east side. We have you surrounded. You're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign. She'd learned not to trust it. Her phone buzzed. Text from James. I'm here. Where are you? She typed back. Pavilion. The bench facing the lake. Movement in her peripheral vision. James appeared on the path, walking toward her with that familiar stride. Confident. Purposeful. He wore jeans and a leather jacket over a button-down shirt. His badge clipped to his belt where everyone could see it. His face was a mask of concern, the worried husband coming to collect his troubled wife. But Beyoncé saw what others wouldn't notice. The tension in his jaw. The way his hand kept drifting to his hip, where his gun rested. The cold calculation in his eyes as he scanned the park, looking for threats, for witnesses, for exits. He stopped in front of her bench. Beyoncé. His voice was soft, gentle even. Thank God. I've been so worried. Sit down, James. She gestured to the other end of the bench. Let's talk. He sat, but not where she'd indicated, right beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, the same scent that used to make her stomach turn with anxiety. His hand reached for hers. She pulled away. Don't. Don't? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm your husband. I've been looking for you for 24 hours. I held a press conference. I offered a reward. And you sit here telling me don't? His voice dropped lower. Where have you been? Who have you been with? That's not important. It's very important. His hand shot out, gripping her wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, not where anyone watching would think it was violent, but tight enough that she couldn't pull away. You disappeared, you scared me, you made me look like a fool. And now you're going to tell me exactly what you've been doing and with whom. Let go of me. Not until you answer. His smile was pleasant. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple having an intense conversation. Did you go to another man? Is that what this is? You found someone else and now you're trying to make me the bad guy? You are the bad guy, James. Beyoncé met his eyes. You beat me. You threatened to kill me. You put your hands around my throat. I did no such thing. His grip tightened. You fell. You've always been clumsy. And you're making up stories because you're embarrassed about running away. His other hand came up to touch her face, almost tender. Almost. But it's okay. I forgive you. We'll go home. We'll get you some help. Maybe medication, therapy, whatever you need. I don't need help. I need you to leave me alone. Something shifted in his expression. The mask slipped for just a second and underneath was pure rage. That's not how this works. You don't get to leave me. You don't get to embarrass me in front of the entire city and then make demands. He leaned closer, his voice a whisper that the microphone barely caught. You're coming home with me. Right now. Quietly. Or I will make a scene. I will tell everyone here that you're mentally unstable. I will have you committed. And then when you're locked in a psychiatric facility with no way out, I will make sure you never embarrass me again. Is that a threat? It's a promise. His hand moved from her face to her throat, fingers resting lightly against her pulse. To observers, it might look intimate, but Beyoncé felt the pressure, the warning. I could end this right now, quick squeeze. You're distraught, suicidal, and you jumped in the lake before I could stop you. Tragic accident. Who would question it? People are watching. Are they? James glanced around casually. I see families having picnics. Joggers are minding their own business. No one pays attention anymore. No one wants to get involved. His fingers tightened slightly. No one's coming to save you, Beyoncé. Actually, a voice said from behind them. Cool, controlled, furious. Someone already did. James's head whipped around. Ken Tyler stood there, hands in his pockets, expression carved from ice. He wasn't alone. Thompson flanked him on one side, Rachel on the other. All three wore the same calm, dangerous look. James's hand dropped from Beyoncé's throat. He stood, positioning himself between her and Ken, his cop instincts kicking in. Who the hell are you? Ken Tyler, we haven't met. Ken's smile was sharp. But I know quite a bit about you, Detective Morrison. Your work with Vincent Caruso, your relationship with Thompson Delgado, the warehouse on 5th and Harrison, the $50,000 in cash hidden in your bedroom closet behind Christmas decorations you never use. James's face went white, then red. You've been in my house? That's breaking and entering. That's evidence collection. Your wife gave me permission. She lives there too, you know. Ken stepped closer. Did you really think you could threaten her in a public park and no one would notice? Did you think badges make you invisible? I don't know what she told you, but she's not well. She's confused. She needs help. She needs protection from you. Ken pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. Beyoncé's voice filled the air, playing from the recording. James's threats, his admission about making her disappear, his hands on her throat. Everything. James lunged forward. Thompson moved like lightning, intercepting him, twisting his arm behind his back with practiced efficiency. The detective struggled, reaching for his gun. Rachel was faster, removing it from his holster with the smooth confidence of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Get your hands off me, James shouted. I'm a police officer. This is assault. This is a citizen's arrest. Ken's voice cut through the commotion. Several joggers had stopped. Families were watching now. You threatened your wife's life. You admitted to criminal conspiracy on the recording. And you just attempted to draw a weapon in a public park. That recording is illegal. You can't use it. Actually, we can. Single-party consent state. Beyoncé was part of the conversation. She had every right to record it. Patricia Criss appeared from the parking lot, impeccably dressed, briefcase in hand. I'm his attorney. Everything we've done is completely legal, unlike you choking your wife in public. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. James's expression cycled through emotions, rage, fear, desperation, finally landing on cold calculation. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know who you're messing with. Delgado will what? Ken interrupted. Thompson Delgado was arrested 45 minutes ago. Federal agents raided the warehouse on 5th and Harrison, 2 distribution centers across state lines and his personal residence. They found enough explosive precursors to level a city block. He paused. They also found financial records linking him to 12 police officers, including you. James stopped struggling. You're lying. I don't lie. I make things happen. Ken pulled up a news article on his phone and showed James the screen. Major terrorism plot foiled, crime boss arrested. The story was already breaking. Delgado's done, his organization is done, and everyone connected to him is going down. The police cars pulled into the parking lot. But these weren't James's friends from the local precinct. Federal agents in dark suits emerged from unmarked vehicles. A woman in an FBI jacket approached, badge already out. Detective James Morrison? Her voice was professional. Bored even, like she arrested dirty cops every day. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit terrorism, illegal weapons trafficking, domestic violence, and attempted murder. She nodded to Thompson, who released James into her custody. The agent cuffed him efficiently. You have the right to remain silent. James didn't listen to his rights. He was staring at Beyoncé, who'd stood up from the bench, who was watching him get arrested with an expression he'd probably never seen on her face before. Not fear, not submission. Something harder, something unbreakable. You did this. His voice was hollow. You went to him. You told him everything. You destroyed me. No, James. Beyoncé's voice was steady, strong. You destroyed yourself. I just stopped letting you destroy me too. The agents led him away. He kept turning back, kept staring at her like he couldn't quite believe this was happening, like he genuinely thought his badge would protect him forever, like he'd never considered that the woman he'd beaten and threatened might actually fight back. If you believe every victim deserves to be heard, and every abuser deserves to face justice, like this video right now, let's show the world we stand with survivors, not their oppressors. When the police cars disappeared, the park slowly returned to normal. Families went back to their picnics. Joggers resumed their routes. Life continued, indifferent to the drama that had just unfolded. Beyoncé sat back down on the bench, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. Ken sat beside her. Not close. Respectful distance, giving her space. Is it really over? She asked quietly. The criminal case will take months, maybe years. Trials, testimonies, legal proceedings. Ken watched the lake, the sun setting over the water. But James Morrison will never touch you again. That part is over. And me? What happens to me? That depends. He looked at her finally. You can disappear. New identity, new city, new life. I have people who can make Beyoncé Martinez vanish completely. Clean slate. Or you stay. Fight for your real name. Testify against James and everyone he worked with. Help put them all away. Ken's expression was unreadable. Harder path, more visible, but yours. Not hiding, not running, standing. Beyoncé thought about 3 years of hiding, of making herself small, of apologizing for bruises she didn't cause, of disappearing piece by piece until she barely recognized herself. I want to stay. I want to testify. I want my name back. Ken smiled. Actually smiled. Not the cold, calculating expression she'd grown used to. Something warmer, almost proud. Then you'll need a job. My company could use someone with your instincts. You spotted details that trained investigators missed. You survived impossible situations. That's valuable. I'm a waitress with a high school diploma. You're a survivor with street smarts and courage. The rest we can teach. He stood, offering his hand. If you want it, no obligation, no strings, just an offer. Beyoncé took his hand, let him pull her to her feet. Why are you doing all this? Really? Ken was quiet for a moment. Because 7 years ago, I didn't move fast enough to save my sister. I played by the rules that didn't apply to her husband. I trusted systems that failed her. His gray eyes met hers. You walked into a country club with a split lip and bruises, and you asked for help. That's all Sarah needed to do. Ask. And I wasn't there. His hand squeezed hers briefly before releasing. So I'm here for you, and I'll be here for the next person who needs it, and the one after that, because maybe that's how we make up for the people we couldn't save. We save the ones we can. Beyoncé felt tears building but didn't let them fall. Not yet. Later, maybe. In private. When she could process everything that had happened, for now, she just nodded. Thank you. For believing me. For helping me. For... She gestured vaguely at everything. All of it. Thank you for trusting a stranger who tips too much. Ken's smile returned, brief but genuine. Come on. Let's get you somewhere safe. Actually safe this time. Not hiding, just breathing. They walked toward the parking lot together, Thompson and Rachel falling into step behind them, like silent guardians. The park was beautiful in the fading light, golden and peaceful and full of people who had no idea what had just happened. People living normal lives, facing normal problems. Beyoncé had never wanted normal. She'd wanted safety, freedom, a life where fear wasn't the baseline emotion. And for the first time in 3 years, that life felt possible. Not easy. The trials would be hard. The publicity would be brutal. James's lawyer would try to destroy her credibility. His friends on the force would make her life difficult. But she wouldn't face it alone. She had Ken Tyler's resources, Patricia Chen's legal expertise, and Thompson's protection. She had a job offer, a future, a path forward that didn't involve hiding or running or disappearing. She had her name back, her life back, herself back. As they reached Ken's car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than her childhood home, Beyoncé turned back to look at the park one last time. The pavilion where she'd faced James, the bench where she'd refused to be a victim. The lake reflected sunset colors like liquid fire. She'd walked into a country club desperate and terrified, begging a billionaire stranger to save her. And he had. But more than that, he'd given her the tools to save herself, the courage to stand up, the proof that asking for help wasn't a weakness, the knowledge that sometimes the right person hears your whispered plea and says yes. Ready? Ken asked, holding the car door open. Beyoncé took one last breath of evening air. Cool, clean, free. Yes, I'm ready. She got in the car. Ken closed the door gently. Thompson drove them away from Riverside Park, away from James Morrison, away from everything that had been, toward whatever came next. Trials and testimony and rebuilding a life from ashes. But Beyoncé wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Because she'd learned something crucial in the past 48 hours, she'd learned that asking for help wasn't surrender. That trusting someone wasn't a weakness. That sometimes, the most dangerous thing a monster's victim could do was refuse to stay silent. She'd walked into a country club and whispered 2 words to a stranger. Help me. And Ken Tyler, billionaire, strategist, man haunted by the sister he couldn't save, had looked at her bruised face and made a choice. To act, to fight, to break every rule necessary to keep one more woman from becoming a statistic. James Morrison was in federal custody. Thompson Delgado was facing terrorism charges. 12 dirty cops were being investigated. An entire criminal network had been dismantled, all because a waitress had the courage to ask for help, and a billionaire had the courage to give it. The car merged onto the highway, city lights beginning to glow in the gathering darkness. Ken handed her a bottle of water without comment. Thompson adjusted the rearview mirror. Rachel made a phone call about security details for the safe house. And Beyoncé sat in the back seat of a luxury car, surrounded by people who'd chosen to protect her, and allowed herself to believe it finally. She was safe. She was free. She had survived. The road ahead would be long. The legal battles are exhausting. The recovery is slow. But she would face it all standing up, speaking truth, refusing to disappear. Because some women whisper for help and are ignored. Some women scream and are silenced. But Beyoncé had whispered to exactly the right person at exactly the right moment. And he had moved heaven and earth to make sure she lived to tell her story. That was the unbelievable part. Not that a billionaire helped a waitress. But that was when it mattered most, when her life hung in the balance. Someone had actually listened.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. Hit subscribe if you'd never side with men like James, and comment "Justice Wins." So every survivor knows they're not alone. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as interesting and even more intriguing than you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.